Apple is not just a name, but a brand that puts a smile on everyone's face. There is hardly anyone in the world that don't know about Apple. But the Apple company was not always the same as it is today. Let's know about the interesting facts of the Apple company, which hardly anyone has told you. Apple Computers was founded on April 1, 1976 by college dropouts, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, who brought to the new company a vision of changing the way people viewed computers. So how did these two dropouts make the biggest company of the future? We will tell you everything about this company, so stay tuned and watch the video till the end. Maybe the story will inspire you and you will be the next Steve Jobs of future. And click subscribe button to become an entrepreneur as we provide multiple ways to earn money online. Let's get back to the story. Jobs and Wozniak started out building the Apple I in Jobs' garage and sold them without a monitor, keyboard, or casing. The Apple II revolutionized the computer industry with the introduction of the first ever color graphics. Sales jumped from $7.8 million in 1978 to $117 million in 1980. The two Steves, Jobs and Wozniak, may have been Apple's most visible founders, but were it not for their friend Ronald Wayne, there might be no iPhone, iPad, or iMac today. Jobs convinced him to take 10% of the company stock and act as an arbiter, but Wayne backed out 12 days later, selling for just $500, a holding that would have been worth $72 billion 40 years later. Jobs and Woz were introduced in 1971 by a mutual friend, Bill Fernandez, who went on to become one of Apple's earliest employees. The two Steves got along thanks to their shared love of technology. By the end of 1978, Apple was one of the fastest growing companies in the United States, with its products carried by 100 dealers. Wozniak left Apple in 1983 due to his personal reasons. In 1983, around the time of launch of the Macintosh, Jobs hired John Sculley as the new Apple CEO. When Mark Markula, the second CEO, wanted to retire, Sculley was the youngest CEO of Pepsi during the time. However, tension grew between Jobs and Sculley when the Macintosh failed to break IBM's dominance. The Apple's board took Sculley's side and removed Jobs from his managerial duties. Jobs then quit his job and founded a new company making advanced workstations, named Next. With Jobs now out of the company, the board was free to think what kind of machines Apple was going to produce. They decided to target high-end markets with more expensive Macs. On the other end, Jobs founded his own company, Next Software, and he also bought Pixar from George Lucas, which would later become a huge success in computer animation of such movies as Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc. Over the course of a few years, Apple's market share suffered slowly after its peak in 1990, and by 1996, experts believed the company to be doomed. It was not until 1997, when Apple was desperately in need of an operating system, that it bought out Next Software, and the board of directors decided to ask for some help from an old friend, Steve Jobs. Jobs became an interim CEO. During the 1997 Macworld Expo, Jobs announced Apple was joining hands with Microsoft to create new versions of Microsoft for the Macintosh. He also announced that Microsoft had invested $150 million in non-voting Apple stock. He forged an alliance with Microsoft to create a Mac version of its popular Office software. Not long after this decision was the turning point for the company. Jobs revamped the computers and introduced the iBook, followed by iPod, an MP3 player, which became market leader. The iMac was introduced on August 15, 1998, an all-in-one computer. Jonathan Ive led the iMac design team, and he would later design the iPod and the iPhone. 80,000 units of the iMac were sold in just 5 months as a result of modern technological features and a unique design. Apple's iTunes Music Store was introduced in 2003, and the service offered online music downloads for 99 cents per song and also integrated it to the iPod. iTunes became the world's largest music retailer by 2005. In 2006, Apple finally decided to switch to an Intel-based system architecture. The MacBook Pro was the Apple's first laptop with an Intel Core processor. Between 2003 and 2006, the Apple stock price increased by more than 10 times, from $6 per share to $80 per share. The iPhone was announced at the Macworld Expo on January 9, 2007. Jobs also announced that Apple Computing would thereafter be called Apple Inc., as the company had widened its emphasis to consumer electronics as well. 270,000 iPhones were sold during the first 30 hours of its sales, and it came out to be known as a game changer for the industry. The App Store was launched by Apple in July 2008 to sell third-party application for the iPhone and iPod Touch. Within a month, 60 million applications were sold through the App Store, and it was able to register an average daily revenue of $1 million. Apple also became the third largest mobile handset supplier in the world, thanks to the popularity of the iPhone. Steve Jobs resigned from his position as CEO due to health factors on August 24, 2011, and was replaced by Tim Cook. Jobs passed away on October 5, 2011, which marked the end of an incredible era for Apple and brought a big diversion in Apple's history. However, Apple still continues to influence the markets with groundbreaking technological wonders to date. The market capitalization of Apple is $2.37 trillion USD. If Apple happens to be a country, it would be at number 6 in terms of GDP, above Italy and Canada. Apple Company have cash and investments of $202.6 billion. It is the biggest company by market capitalization. Stock price of Apple is $147.27 USD. If an investor had bought $100 of Apple stock 20 years ago, it would be worth $41,002.74 today, based on a price of $147.27 for Apple at the time of making this video. Over the past 10 years, the Apple stock price has risen by 600%, an incredible return for anyone who has managed to hold on to Apple for that long. Stocks Gurus has predicted that the price of Apple stock will be $445 by the end of 2032, so holding stocks for 10 years will be a profitable idea. There are more than 1.2 billion iPhone users in the world as of 2022. Over 2.2 billion iPhone units have been sold as of 2022. There is no looking back for Apple now, so if you are looking to invest somewhere, then Apple could be a good option. And if you think there are better options, let us know in the comment box. Click the like button if you enjoyed the video. Till then, goodbye.